Hi, everyone. We're back. CFS is back with another live discussion, and this time we're talking about Tenet. I'll just introduce myself quickly before I let my teammates introduce themselves. So, my name is Keya Shirali, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer and the Co-Finance Officer for the Carleton Film Society. I'm a fourth-year double major with Communication and Media Studies and Film Studies, and I'll just hand it over to my teammates now.
Okay, hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm a third-year communications and film studies student, and I'm really excited to get into this discussion today.
And I'm Beatrice. I'm the head of production with a focus on logistics. I'm a second-year student at Carleton with in media production and design with a minor in film. So I guess we can just talk about the film today that we'll be discussing, and it's Tenet. It is Christopher Nolan's 11th film, and it's about this protagonist played by John David Washington. And he is recruited into this mission that he's not so sure what's it about, but all he knows is that he can manipulate time in some way. He can go forwards, backwards, and I think all he knows is that there's a potential for a World War III, and he's trying to use this manipulation of time to try to stop that event from happening. We'll see other cast members such as Robert Pattinson acting as Neil. We'll see Andrew, the antagonist, who is trying to make this World War III happen with his wife Pat and their son Max. So I think that's a basic summary of the film before it gets too complex if we get into it and before we go into any spoilers. So this will be a spoiler warning that this after we talk about there'll be all the spoilers that's coming in. So I suggest watching it and then coming back and watching this discussion with us after you've seen it. All right, so I guess we can just go in with first initial thoughts about the film and what have you guys thought about it?
Awesome. I guess I'll go first. So for me, I watched it all the way in March when it came out. So it was a year ago, but it was right before the pandemic and the whole shebang of movie theaters closing. But I was so excited because I love Inception, I love Interstellar, I love a lot of Christopher Nolan movies. So I was ready for it. I was ready to sit down and watch this. And I remember sitting there, and we actually got those movie theaters that move the seats with the sound. It was new, so they move. Anyways, it's near my hometown, so we got a ticket in one of those theaters, me and my dad, and we were so confused for half of the movie. What is happening? We don't get anything. And then at the end of the movie, we slowly start getting an understanding what's happening and all. And it was just so fun and revealing, and it's we were peeling back layers and layers and layers, and it's so fun. And the best feeling is when you leave a movie theater, you're in the car, and you talk the whole ride home about the movie, and even the next day and the next day. And that's the kind of movie that I love. That's even if it's made for entertainment, it's a blockbuster or whatever. If it makes me talk and think about it, that's a win. That's exactly what I want in going for a movie. Yeah. So what about you, Keya?
So just like Steph, I am a huge Christopher Nolan fan, and I can quantify that by telling you guys that I've watched Interstellar 10 times. I used to talk about it all the time over dinner with family and everything. And I listen to the soundtrack of Inception by Hans Zimmer all the time while I'm studying. But with this film, I couldn't get into it at the time that it released, obviously because of the pandemic, and I wasn't leaving my home as much. And so I just watched it a couple of days ago for this discussion. And it took me a lot of my side research to acquaint myself with what was going on at the same time, and I think that made me appreciate it more. So every think piece that I read was telling people to watch it more than once. So what I would tell people is that if you didn't like it, if you hated it very strongly, I would recommend giving it another shot because it definitely deserves that. And then if you don't like it, understandable. But also do supplement your viewing with some think pieces and everything, because there are some narrative complications in there that you need to orient yourself with. So
yeah, I had the same experience. I watched it the first time in the theater, and I think I was really excited just to be back in the theater, to be immersed into a movie again in that kind of space. And I think I was also very confused at the start. I was thinking like maybe I'll slowly understand it, but then I think I stopped like trying to like figure everything out and just try to like enjoy the experience more. And I think I really enjoyed like the first experience, and definitely with like Christopher Nolan films, it's like a new experience every time you like rewatch it. So the second time I watched it, I was like able to like, okay, it's like a slower pace now. I kind of can see what's gonna happen next, but I can also like understand like from a different perspective. We've seen it like from the protagonist, and now I can see it in like Neil's perspective as well. It's like, oh, like he played such a big part of like the entire film that I haven't noticed until like the very end of it. So I think, yeah, it was just like a great, like I loved the film the first time, and it's like still like a great experience like the second time around, especially the whole like the visual experience as well with the scenes. And this Christopher Nolan, just like in any film that he's done before, the practical effects of it, it's like that's like a big seller to watch this film or any of his films, honestly.
That's true. It's really an epic movie. It's awesome, and the thought that goes into these movies is just outstanding. I mean, who would have thought that like you reverse time in such a way? I mean, it's way beyond what you see in Back to the Future or in any other like futuristic movies. It's outstanding. I just never thought like I guess that scene when like he's like shooting and then like the bullet goes back into the gun. It's like, what? How is that even possible? Or the other scene where they're like fighting against people from the past or the future, and it's like all in the reverse, and it's like, what? This is just so interesting. And I just think about like, how did they do that? Like the whole movie, I'm like, how did they do this? How did they make the fast forward and the future and the past, and how did they film that so that it would work? And I mean, I know it's all technical things, but it's just like that just blew my mind. It was outstanding, and it was something that I've never seen before. It was something very unique, and I think that's what Christopher Nolan brings to the table every single time. And maybe people think that like Tenet was like been there than that. There's so many other films that Nolan does that are just like this, but I mean, I think it's actually outstanding. They're so different than anything else that we've seen. I mean, Inception, there's always going to be that final debate about the end of the movie. Everyone's going to always debate if it was a dream or not.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, whatever. But
yeah.
And this kind of movie, it doesn't necessarily have that like end effect that you don't really know what's going to happen, but it's just like it just makes you think about the whole movie, what you experienced beforehand. And it was like what was in the past, what was in the future, and it's just such an interesting debate that you're having with yourself and with the film. And I think, I mean, I would recommend it to anyone. I think it was really an epic action-packed movie, but that also made you think, and it was like Mission Impossible, but like a lot cooler. So it was, I loved it.
Yeah, like probably like with action films, like to me, it's like lacking in the plot. But I think with Christopher Nolan, I think he also, even though it was very confusing, and I'm still confused even after watching some videos that helped me explain the plot, but it was just, that was kind of iffy. But I think I've even like heard about how they filmed some of the reverse. The actors had to actually act in reverse as well. Wow. Like some of those like action scenes, like they had to like fight backwards, I think. So that's like even insane. But yeah, even the car chase scene, like everything was incredible. Yeah, they had to like hire people. Even with the final scene, they had extras, but all these extras had to be like very trained, and since they're like they're in these suits for like 10 hours every day, so they had to be like equipped for that. But yeah, like Keya, you had something to say about?
Yeah, it's actually very interesting that you guys bring that up, the whole thing about time and reversing and everything, because I was reading about how there's this military combat strategy or tactic or something called the pincer, and it's basically when the enemy is attacked from both sides, like from front and back or left and right or whatever. And that concept is actually, it actually exists in this film. It's called the temporal pincer, because temporal means time, right? So this whole like inverse radiation thing, a lot of their scenes, like the fight scene towards the end, it's like their fight is like happening the people from the past and the people from the future and the whole thing. So I think that was really cool, the whole thing about like inverse radiation. And it's like you don't need to. So for Interstellar, he had like a bunch of like physicists with him explaining concepts and everything. They say that he didn't have that for this film, but I was thinking about like the meaning of the word Tenet, right? So it's a palindrome. So it's like it goes it's the same both ways. Like if you spell it the other way around, it's still Tenet. And that says a lot about the theme of the film, how it's like, you know, how time moves forwards and backwards. And someone said that this film isn't about time travel, it's about time manipulation. And that kind of made me think of what Beatrice said about how like the whole fast forwarding and rewinding and all that stuff. So just thinking about the name and how it plays into it is just really cool. So
it's really awesome, and you can see that there's like a lot of studying, there's a lot of thought put behind this film, and I always appreciate a movie that, you know, makes a lot of meaning and a lot of thinking and into behind whatever's happening. Anyways, if anyone's watching and that they want to like put a comment in and join into our discussion, please feel free. And I mean, we always love to interact with everyone, so about what you guys think about the movie. So anything else that you guys really thought stuck out with the movie?
I think I just heard like another theory that like really blew my mind. I don't know if it was just me that I haven't like noticed it the first time, but apparently there was like some hints that Neil and Max are actually the same person. So when we like look at the scene, and the reason why he's always so protective of Kat and why he's always at the school again is because he's protecting this Max who will later on become Neil. And that's how Neil has hinted it at the end, that it's like only the beginning of their relationship. And so that's what he means, because he's slowly like taking care of this kid. And I think somebody even said that Max is short for Maximilian, and then you take the last Leon and you like convert it, it's like Neil. So that's like another theory that I was just like, that blew my mind. And I wasn't like, was that because I guess they have like blonde hair? I was like, I don't know if it was like me, like only me that I've like noticed that after a video, or if people have seen it like noticed that the first time they've seen it, or what do you guys
think? That's crazy, but I think it's probably true. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it is true that he is protective of that character, and there's just so much more behind everything that's happening. And I think yeah, there's definitely a connection there. I mean, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I mean, I would need to watch it 10 times before I see more and more connections lining with one another. But yeah, I think that could be definitely probable. Yeah. And one other thing that I'm like very like I am blown away by is like, why is this movie not critically acclaimed as much as it should? At least that's what I think. I think it's right up there with Inception. It's right up there with Interstellar. It's right up there with all the amazing Christopher Nolan movies that have been out there. And I mean, I just don't understand like why we're not nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Picture and all these other awards. And it's not really into the lineup for the Oscars as well. It's more like for special effects and for music and sound and all that stuff. But I mean, I just want to know your thoughts. Like, what do you think played into the fact that it's like just not seen as interesting as maybe the other movies that are out there being criticized and highly acclaimed this time?
Do you want to go first, or should I?
You can jump in, Keya.
I have a few ideas. Like, I'm just bursting with why they might not be. So one criticism that I've seen a lot, and personally that I kind of agree with, was the sound design. So a lot of people argued that when they have like the background music and the score and everything, or the sound effects, it's really loud. But when they have the dialogue, then you can barely hear anything. It's hardly audible. And the constant, when I was watching it, I was actually unfortunately watching it on my laptop. So there was this constant switching of like volume, like low, up, low, high, low.
Yeah.
But besides that, there's two other things. One thing was that there's been a problem that has existed in his films, but particularly in Interstellar, and then people were saying again with Tenet, is that it has a lot of loopholes. And I'm not even talking about like scientific loopholes that like people with a high knowledge of chemistry or physics would know. I'm talking about very basic loopholes. And a lot of people, and there's a ton that you can talk about Interstellar, so I'm not even going to go there. But in Tenet, they were talking about how the protagonist, it's like, shouldn't he have already been dead if he did something and then he went back? So a lot of people have problems with that. But I think the third reason why I think it was so not critically acclaimed was because Christopher Nolan wasn't as open-minded about releasing it to on-demand services as other directors were. I mean, he stretched it out as long as possible to be able to release it in theaters. And the anticipation, it's like you can build it, and eventually maybe it dies down for some people, you know? Like if you aren't a big fan, then maybe you'll just be excited for a day and then not. I exaggerate when I say a day. So so I think I can think of those reasons why it could have done.
For sure.
Yeah, I was thinking like being released like during like COVID, like they were able to like film everything by the time COVID hit, but then releasing it was just another issue of having, you know, the dates being pushed back, and now like the limitations in the theaters with how many people can watch it. And yeah, especially with video on demand, like I think more directors should be like more open about it now. The whole debate about, oh, is it really like a movie if you're not watching it in the theater? So
yeah, but I get it. Like with Tenet, when it's such a cinematic movie in all its forms. I mean, I feel like you experience it such a different way in the movie theater than on the laptop or on just a small TV screen in your home. I mean, it's so different to have that whole experience. And even though, as I was saying, I was watching it with the moving seats, like the whole shebang. Like it was crazy. But it really enhanced the experience. At least maybe that's why I'm so excited about the movie, and I find it so entertaining. Maybe that's why. But I mean, it's true. Maybe that's why, because I don't know. Maybe the on-demand movies haven't made me that excited. When I watch them, it's like, Like I feel like this year there's a lot of meh movies that have been so highly acclaimed, and I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why. At least in my opinion, that Tenet hasn't been so talked about it enough. But maybe the loopholes might be something that I might have not put into consideration. But then again, Interstellar was very highly acclaimed, very loved, and didn't necessarily have that kind of debate put into it. But I think it's because there's an outcry for a little bit more less blockbuster kind of movies. I think that at least the Oscars, the Golden Globes, and all the other big awards, they're looking for movies that from film festivals. They're looking for movies that are maybe different. They're a little bit independent, and that they're looking for something that might not necessarily be interesting for common people. I mean, I've talked about all these movies to my friends, and they're like, what are all these movies?
Right.
They're like, what are you talking about? And it's because they're not like blockbuster movies, except Tenet maybe. But I think that this is what people, at least critics, are looking for at the moment, and they maybe don't see like high concept movies as something to be like highly acclaimed for. But I kind of disagree. I don't think that necessarily a low concept or a complicated movie is necessarily necessarily better. But then again, Tenet is such a complicated movie that like it should be considered just as amazing as something else. I mean, we're not watching, I don't know, I'm trying to think about, we're not watching a chick flick. We're not watching Mission Impossible without being mean to Mission Impossible. We're watching something that's, you know, very interesting and very well thought out as well. So I don't know, maybe I think there's like an outcry for wanting a little bit more movies about social issues and about politics than other years, maybe because of the political times that we are in.
I think with Tenet, it's like it has that blockbuster, you know, movie story, but also I think it's like available like for people who do like studying and like studying films and looking into it. It's like there's also both that aspects. You can like see it as a blockbuster, like the visual effects, but also you can like watch it again and have this different experience. So yeah, I think like I've only seen like a few talks about it just for the sound and best production, and maybe like cinematography as well. But yeah, like not as much talk about it being like big best picture, but yeah, I'm not seeing that much talk about that.
Yeah, neither.
How much would you rate the film on like 5 stars? Out of 5 stars, how much would you? 5 being the highest, of course.
Oh wow.
It depends.
Yeah.
I can't criticize like that just because it's like, you know, like it really depends on what kind of movies. Like I love The Notebook. Like it's amazing. I love it, but it's such a cheesy, romance movie, but like I give it a 5-star just because I love it. But
I hate rating films. Like I just can't do it. Like I don't even know.
Can't do it. But like, is it the most? Is it the most like well thought out movie? Not necessarily, but did I love it? Yes. So it's hard to criticize movies that way. It's just like I feel like there's like two sides of me. There's a person that really likes entertaining movies, and I really enjoy like Grown Ups and like all these blockbuster fun movies to watch. And then there's the other part of me that like is the critic side that like really likes to talk about and dive into movies and going through all the analysis and theories and all that stuff. Sorry, my cat is making an appearance. Hello.
Can we ask your cat? Did your cat watch Tenet with you or?
No, because I was in the movie theater. But
Oh, okay.
but no, it was I feel like at least for Tenet, I would say, just for entertainment wise, was 5-star for me. It was very entertaining, very fun to watch. Maybe for a critic side, like 4.5. I just really enjoyed it. I'm just gonna lower it a little bit just because I'm gonna be criticky, and I mean, there's not really much that I don't really like about it except that it was confusing. But I mean, other than that, it was really enjoyable. So, what about you, Beatrice?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like first time I saw it, like 5 stars. It was like I didn't really think about it. I was just like the experience of it. I just like loved that. So it was like immediately 5 stars. You could like check my letterbox for that. And my second time watching it, I was like, yeah, maybe it is like more like a 3.5 when it's like trying to understand the whole story and everything. It was like it felt like a bit missing, or I think I was just like a little bit like confused about some parts. It didn't make me feel like a whole as in a movie experience. Like I didn't feel like, okay, I kind of like understand it now. I can kind of like look back on it and like not be so confused as I am right now. But it's like that's my feeling of it right now if I look back at it.
Yeah,
I get it, but I feel like I'm the kind of person that like doesn't like to feel whole after a movie. I mean, maybe certain movies, yes, but like a romance or something. But I don't know, like these kinds of movies, I love it when it's open ended. Like if Top Gun would be open-ended, I would love it even more than what it is. Like it just it adds so much depth and conversation to put into it than just like, it ended and it was like great, good. I'm gonna go on about my day and do the rest of my things. But when it really affects your life and puts your mind into different perspectives, I think that's when a movie really hits the spot.
Okay, for yours. Yeah, your opinion about it, like your
I forgot my rating. Yeah. So I remember the reason why I even asked this question in the first place was because when back in like many months ago when Beatrice and I were interviewing Sam Alvin, the director, we asked him what his rating was of Tenet because he just watched it and he gave us a rating. And I think he said 3.5, which is the same as what you said right now. And I keep racking my brain to think like, what is my rating? And the thing is that being at the stage that I am right now in whatever my career is, like I could never even imagine coming close to making something like that yet, which is why I appreciate it so much more, like I think in our last discussion, I think Beatrice was, no, I think it was one of you, I forgot which one, but I'm so sorry, but one of you were talking about how even like the really, really bad movies, they take so much effort and they take all this talent and all this collaboration, and it's like, that makes me kind of, set the bar, I guess, like be a little less brutal with my ratings. So I would definitely go towards like a 4, maybe. Or, okay, you know what? 4.2.
You're being very precise.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. A movie just takes so much time and collaboration. I mean, like you're saying, I mean, we're talking about all these things, but like, what do we know about making a movie? I mean, I feel like I still have not written a full feature-length script for myself or for anyone or for anything. And it's like, imagining making a movie like this that just has so much thought and put behind it and so much work. I mean, there's thousands of people on these credits. And if you just look at all these names, you're like, wow, everyone had a part into this. And it's like, one day maybe I'll be on one of these really big, blockbuster, awesome, action-packed movies. And it's like, it's very inspiring in the end when you just, I don't know, I love to just watch that and be a part of it. And hopefully be a part of it in the future. I don't know what you guys want to do in the future, if you guys want to go into directing, script writing, anything, but I feel like it makes me just so inspired to see amazing, well thought out, meaningful movies like this.
This is the kind of movie that makes me wish they have like an Oscar category for stunts people.
Oh, yes.
Like, they do a heck ton of work and hardly any credit. And so 1 second of credits is not worth it. They need more. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, maybe in the Oscar part that's like not viewed, like not on not the 3-hour telecast, but like, like for voice actors, for all the other things that you can get an award for in movies. But maybe. Who knows?
I'm just like thinking like this guy, like with the practical effects, like he just thought of like, yeah, we'll just take this plane and just crash it into a building. I was like, let's do it. It's like, why not? And it's just like, I think he even decided like maybe we'll do like small scale like visual effects, but he does not go small. Like he really just took an entire plane and just like, yeah, let's just take it and just destroy this building. The car chase, it's like, yeah, just thinking about how to even plan that. Like you could not do like a second take with that. That's so much money.
Exactly.
Like to make like a film like that, it's like it's insane. There's like that much money in your hands. It's a lot to do with that money.
It's true, and I mean it's crazy to think all that goes in behind a movie. And I had something on my mind, but I just lost it. Damn it. Oh man, whatever. You guys keep on talking. It's gonna come back to my brain. It's gonna come back.
Okay. I forgot the question that I was asking.
Oh yeah.
Sorry? I remember my question now. Do you remember what you were saying?
No, go ahead. I forgot. Still, so I'm going to remember.
Like film student question, because that's what we are. That's what we do. So as we spoke of his earlier films, there's this clear like theme of time, right? Like time, Interstellar, or like Inception. Obviously, there's a whole like soundtrack track called Time. So basically, my question here is that with this whole theme of time, is Nolan trying to create some sort of like a his image as an author? Is he trying to like create that for himself? Like that's what his whole slate is about? Like that's what he should be remembered for? Or is it just a coincidence? Is it just something he really likes and is interested in, and it could just as easily have been about plants or space, but he chose time? So
I think like what I vaguely remember, I've like seen like Memento like a long time ago, and then the ending even just like blew my mind of like how he was able to omit some of the information to the end. And with, why can I think, Interstellar, I think like he brought the drama into like time as like a villain for that film. Like you're racing against time, and you're playing like with these characters, and like I think that's like the drama. Like I think that was what was missing with Tenet as well. Like I couldn't really relate to the characters, but in Interstellar it was like I feel that for him. Like he's trying to get back to his daughter, and it was just like heartbreaking to see that like if you take one action, that's like 10 years, like you're gonna miss out on life. So I think that was also missing with Tenet, but yeah, I think he like does a great job with like manipulating time and like trying to create that emotional connection like with the characters.
Yeah,
so I'm not so sure like with other films as well. If Steph, you've seen any of his films?
I mean, for sure. I mean, I think he's a master of what he lets the audience know and how he reveals it to the audience. I think it's just like it's outstanding how he does that. And it just creates so much the drama and the suspense that goes through it that of course creates confusion, but at the same time, it's just, it's so much more intriguing to watch a movie this way. And I got my idea of what I was about to say. Yeah. So World War III, that was what I wanted to bring up, and how like, we all have these thoughts about like, if World War III is going to happen, if it does, what it's going to be. But like, who would have thought that World War III would have been like trying to be in the future and make it happen in the past? And it's like, wow, who could have thought of that? But I think I think you're absolutely right about the idea of authorship, and that it's Nolan's kind of thing. I mean, through everything that I've watched of him, there's obviously something that has to do with time, and I think it's a passion. I mean, I think it's Steven Spielberg or Martin Scorsese or one of these big directors that said, write what you know. And I think it's if he has a big passion about that, I totally understand why he would go for it. like for me, I have a huge passion about the brain and how the brain functions and memory and all these things. And I think I'm definitely going to make a movie about that just because I'm passionate about it. Will it necessarily be my sign of authorship or my thing? Not necessarily, but I mean, maybe that's just one of the things that he has a strong niche for and that he really likes and that he just wants to showcase and he wants to talk about it and show the world a lot more questions that he has about, I mean, about loopholes in general, loopholes about all the things that we think that we know, but that we don't really know, like dreams, like time, like all these abstract concepts that he just brings a theory to it and brings such an interesting narrative to it that's just crazy and mind-blowing. Like, who would have thought of that? But I feel like he just really, I feel like it's almost like a personal thing. He just personally shares his own opinions about what he's passionate about. And maybe that's kind of his like wink and authorship signature, but I think it's maybe a little bit of both. So who knows? What do you think, Keya?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I definitely think he shouldn't be under, or the public shouldn't keep him under pressure of keeping that, like 10 years from now, if he wants to make films about, I don't know, like seaweed, that's up to him, right? Where no one to say that he should continue making films about time. But what he does well. And he seems to be one of the only people in his field or that we know of that are doing it to this extent. So we can definitely applaud him for that. So yeah, any finishing thoughts?
I just have to like rewatch like all his films again to like really create a whole list of it, because it was just like I need to like, see Memento again and just like really rewatch that and like take out like, hey, this is what I missed before.
I feel like it's a yearly thing that I do. I just put Inception on or Memento or whichever that I feel, and then I'm gonna just scroll Netflix and I'm like, oh, I feel like watching this kind of movie, or while I'm doing something else or whatever. It's always something that's entertaining. And at my house, if you're here, there's always a movie playing in the background, and it's like it's a thing. So. I definitely feel like that it's just so relatable, and I just love these movies so much, and I'm always excited to see more Christopher Nolan films, even if they're liked or they're not liked. I feel like there's always something special about them that's to talk about, and I mean it's just a personal opinion about what he thinks about time, and I think it's awesome to delve into that and think and discuss and debate about it all.
Yeah. I think it's like people expect violence from Quentin Tarantino all the time. It's like if he wakes up one day and wants to make a film about ballet, he is going to subvert a lot of expectations, but like you do you, right? So yeah, that's one thing that's crazy about filmmaking. There's so many themes and walks of life to explore from. So
absolutely. I mean, we see Steven Spielberg as being such an author and such a important filmmaker, but then again, all his films are so different from one another, whether it's Jurassic Park or Schindler's List, or, I mean, I could go on by the long list of movies that he's made, but I mean, they're all so different from one another, but I think the one theme that connects all his films together is family, and how family has a strong importance in the way that the characters grow up and through this adventure that they're going through. And it's like, I don't think it necessarily needs to be a theme that makes a filmmaker stand out from one another, but just something that they care about, that just, I feel that they maybe unconsciously or consciously just place in all of their films. And I think that everyone, I mean, whether we like it or not, if you're making an art piece, whether it is something that's collaborative or not, there's always going to be a piece of a human that's going to be put into it. And it might be interpreted that way or not. I mean, who knows? And whether it's conscious or unconscious, I think that in the end, it's all art. Yeah. Well, I think that we're pretty much wrapping up here. So if ever you have any comments about the film, Tenet, if anything that pops up that you want to just discuss with us, you can always message us on the Carleton Film Society, Facebook, Instagram. We love to talk about movies. So if ever there's any movies that you think that we should talk about next, please be sure to write to us, and we'll maybe talk about that one next. But just letting you know that our next chat will be on March 24th, so at 5 p.m. like this time, and that we're just going to keep talking about another great movie that's been talked about a lot. So we'll keep that under wraps for now, but stay tuned on all our social media channels, and so that you can see what is the next movie that we'll chat about. So make sure to watch that one before we get into the discussion. All right.
All right.
All right. Well, see ya. Bye.
Bye.